Welcome to Fabrity Talks, where we share our experience and best practices in designing, building, and implementing custom software and digital solutions. In Season 2, we focus on providing IT executives with practical business insights that can be seamlessly put into practice in your organizations. Our goal is to help CIOs, CTOs, product owners, and IT project managers to make informed decisions and minimize risks related to building IT solutions. If you need support with your software project or have any questions, just go to our website fabrity.com and schedule a free 15-minute discovery call. Together we will see how we can help you. You can access every episode of our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Without further ado, let's get started.
Hi, my name is Bartosz Michałowski, and at Fabrity I work closely with our new clients to ensure a smooth start of their projects. Today I would like to share with you the 10 factors every CTO or CIO should consider when choosing the tech stack for their next software project. While technology itself is crucial, there are many non-technical factors that are also very important. All of them, both technical and not technical, should be carefully examined to make the best choice. So, I hope the list I plan to discuss in this podcast today will help you to do so. Before going into details, we need to bear in mind that choosing the tech stack for a project is not only a question of choosing programming languages, programming platforms, and library sets. The choice also encompasses several components of the shelf software and hosting environments. In this area, you need to decide if you prefer to use on-premise infrastructure, private or public cloud. These elements can be used to build a custom solution, or they can be a part of software integration project as well. Of course, the tech stack is also determined by the chosen solution architecture. We can choose a monolith or microservices, decide to build a desktop, web or mobile app, use only the backend or frontend part. All this will affect our decisions on the tech stack. Now, let's take a look at 10 factors that determine the choice of tech stack in a software development project. The first factor is the tech stack requirements in the project set up by stakeholders, client, IT department, and business owner. First, we need to verify if these requirements are so strict that there is no room for any modifications. People may stick to certain technologies or solutions because they are used to them, even there is no business or technological reason why we should use this or that particular programming language or framework. Sometimes people prefer a particular tech stack because they have the necessary skills or lots of experience in using it. They simply want to stay in their comfort zone. These are psychological reasons why certain technologies are used and why they are proposed as a project requirement. But, questioning these requirements may be beneficial for both sides, for an IT service provider and for a client or the business department as well. An external IT service provider can give a completely new perspective and propose a different approach that might be better from the business and technical point of view. Of course, experience with the technology and psychological factors also play an important role. I can hardly imagine choosing a technology your team doesn't like or doesn't know how to use. On the other hand, we should do our best to not be limited by these factors and back our choices with strong evidence and facts. I can remember a case of one of our clients whose team was working in a niche technology. They wanted to augment the team to conduct a project, but specialists with the skills required for the project were very hard to find. Despite much effort, the client could not complete the team to start the project. In this situation, we helped them to build a team with more common skills that were easier to find, and in the long run, such a team was also much easier to retain. It is worth to mention that detailed analysis and validation of project requirements is also important. This is an integral part of the process of building a software solution, and nothing can be taken for granted, I believe. Everything needs to be carefully examined. Well-conducted initial analysis is crucial for a successful final deployment. Skipping or skimming on this stage for whatever reason may lead to serious problems at the later stages of the project. I believe this initial analysis should be the golden standard for any IT service provider. If they are able to do it right, they can establish themselves as a trustworthy partner able to deliver a project successfully. And questioning the technological requirements of the project, even if they might look set in stone at first glance, can be beneficial both for the client and for the IT service provider as well. The second factor is related to tech criteria. When choosing a tech stack, it is important to match the technologies to the solution type you want to build. Some programming languages or platforms simply work better for specific use cases. We need to consider all pros and cons before deciding what tech stack is the best fit for our project. This should be the backbone of every initial project analysis. I think that we should avoid making technical decisions based purely on non-technical criteria. This rule also works for off-the-shelf software or components that will be part of our solution. Every piece of software has been designed for a specific use, and I believe it is not worth going against what its creator recommends. Of course, we can implement mass integration processes using human workflow engines, as one of our clients wanted to do, but this approach very quickly proved to be inappropriate. I also think that we need to avoid creating technical debt at the beginning of the project. Therefore, only the newest and most stable components with long-term technical support should be chosen for our project. The third factor is the availability of tech support for the tech stack chosen for the project. Here I mean operating systems and our solutions components. In the case for commercially available software, tech support is standard. Still, we need to calculate its cost. The cost of support and maintenance services might be higher than the cost of the initial license. If a chosen component is in the form of free or open source software, it is good to check if its provider offers tech support. On some projects, tech support provision is strictly required, but even if it's not required, it's worth having. The fourth factor is avoiding software whose providers don't show a clear development roadmap or don't release new versions and updates regularly. This is especially important for open-source components. This may lead to problems with bug fixing or security issues. If the provider of the software we decided to use in our solution doesn't fix bugs regularly or provide security updates, we will need to do it ourselves. Sometimes, this may be not possible because the source code is closed or there are license restrictions. In that case, you may need to create a workaround which makes the project code more complex and thus more difficult to maintain. But, to be honest, things may get even more difficult. I remember a situation when our provider simply decided to abandon further development of a component we wanted to use in our solution. This meant that it would soon become obsolete and its integration with new technologies wouldn't be possible. If we had chosen this component, in the future we would have been forced to rebuild the entire solution due to its lack of compatibility. Fortunately, our solution architect spotted the issue in time and we chose other technology. The fifth factor is the size and market share of the software we have decided to use in our project. Personally, I would not recommend using local or niche software providers. They may fit into our solution architecture well, but the more popular the software is, the lower the risk that its development will be abandoned or it will be sold to a bigger player. This player may want to merge the software with its own products or even remove it from sale. In both cases, it will be us who will need to pay for adjusting our solution to make changes or for using a new licensing model. The sixth factor is geopolitical events. However abstract it may look, such situations do happen more frequently than you might expect. If we plan to buy a software from a country where the political situation is unstable, we need to calculate the risk. The software provider might limit tech support for their product. Software may also be put on a blacklist by the client or the IT department for security reasons, especially in organizations that gather sensitive data or have strategic importance. In the worst-case scenario, the chosen software may contain malicious code, aiming to steal confidential data, for example. Sometimes we might even need to check if there are any export restrictions for our client's country. Such restrictions may limit the number of technologies we can use in our project for this client. The seventh factor is the availability of IT specialists with the skill set required on the market. And it is true that much has been written on the topic of growing demand for IT talents. When we look at this in terms of recruiting for a project, however, it needs to be considered not only the specialist availability but also the perspectives for professional development and talent retention. From my experience, I can say that people with unique technology or programming skills are not numerous, like, for example, Kotlin developers. They are difficult to find, are expensive to hire, and are very often unwilling to take on new challenges, that is, to change the job. If during a project we need to augment the development team, their low availability may create a serious obstacle. Therefore, we need to carefully ponder our pros and cons of choosing a niche technology. Maybe other non-technical advantages related to IT specialist retention will be more important than the advantages offered by a rare and unique technology. Even if the chosen technology is very popular, it is good to check if the popularity also means higher availability of IT specialists. High popularity usually results in growing demand for specialists. This means that many companies compete for the same pool of talents, which is always limited. So, we can quickly face the situation when we can't hire any of them because they are literally deluged with job offers. The popularity of a technology is also one of the most important factors that impact IT talent salaries and the entire project budget as well. And I think if there are more software projects in our portfolio, it is good to verify if it's possible to exchange IT experts among them and choose the tech stack on this basis. It will be much easier to replace a team member or add a new one if such a need arises. The eighth factor is of psychological nature. This is whether development team members like or dislike a particular technology that we want to use in our project. Developers might not like such technology because they consider it outdated and incompatible with current software development trends. As a result, they will be reluctant to use it because of a fear that it may negatively affect their professional development. And this is obvious. In a highly competitive IT market, nobody wants to lag behind working with an obsolete framework or in a programming language that hardly anyone uses. Some technologies are unpopular because they can force us to use outdated software versions. And as I have mentioned before, developers hate to work with an old tech stack. This reluctance may also result from the fact that some technologies are hard to work with. They are complex, have a steep learning curve, create lots of dependencies, or the documentation is poor or lacking. Given all this, if we decide to choose a technology that our developers do not like, we need to do it wisely. It is reasonable to include in the budget estimates higher salaries for the team to convince them to overcome their reluctance. If we have other options, we should consider them as well. This psychological factor is not necessarily decisive. However, as a development or maintenance project progresses, it will certainly become more important than might have been expected at the beginning. The ninth factor is access to training and certifications. This is important because it shows that the chosen technology is being developed and it's popular. And of course, this makes it easier to find experts with the required skills. I think what's also important is that the entry level for the project is lower if there are training materials and courses available. In other words, IT specialists who want to join the project will have a shorter learning curve. For the IT service provider and the client as well, it will be much easier to augment the team too. Another important aspect is that courses and certifications allow technology experts to meet the formal requirements for the project. In the case of the IT service provider, such certifications will be proof of the experience and skills needed to deliver the project. Okay, so let's talk about the 10th factor, that is hype. Just think of blockchain, microservices, or more recently, generative AI. If we consider using a technology with lots of hype around it, we need to act with caution. All opinions should be critically verified by our tech team. Some technologies can be considered attractive by IT specialists and decision makers because of marketing buzz created to promote them. I personally think that choosing a tech stack based on hype is very risky. Before making any choice, we need to carefully analyze our project requirements and decide whether using technological novelties makes sense in our context. Sometimes developers want to work with the newest tech stack and argue in favor of this or that novelty. On the other hand, companies want to stay ahead of the curve and be considered innovative. Therefore, they decide to use trendy technology because everybody does. And if something is so widely used, it can't be wrong. In this way, social proof replaces strong evidence. That's wrong. As a result, it becomes harder to deliver such a project because the chosen technology is very difficult to implement and we need to find workarounds or pay higher maintenance costs. In the worst case scenario, we might be forced to change tech stack and rebuild the entire solution. We should therefore choose wisely, taking into account technological and business considerations, while being critical of popular assumptions that are not supported by hard evidence. I can recall the hype around microservices a few years ago. During the discussions about the solutions architecture, proposing other approaches than microservices was treated almost as a heresy. Now the hype is over, and we can clearly see that microservices architecture has its pros and cons and doesn't always work better than a traditional monolithic approach. And I think this is true about every technology. Each offers benefits, but there are always some limitations. In the technology world, there is no panacea that will solve all our problems and make all stakeholders happy. We need to remember this simple truth. Of course, none of these factors should be treated as a main reason for choosing a particular technology. As life is full of twists and turns, there can be different and unconventional business scenarios where thinking outside of the box is necessary. In other words, all these factors should be considered one by one to ensure that the decision will be taken based on solid reasoning and not mere presumptions. Therefore, regardless the tech approach and stack chosen, I believe a detailed analysis before the project starts is a must. The more complex the problem is, the more technological and business experience is required to solve it. We should remember that our ultimate goal is to build a functional solution meeting the business requirements. So, technological and other project-related choices should be the means to reach the goal and not the goal itself. That's all I have for you today. If you need to discuss something or have specific questions, feel free to schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with me. To do so, just drop me a line. You will find my email address in the episode description. Together, we will explore what we can do for you. Talk to you soon. Bye!
Fabrity specializes in bespoke software development, e-commerce, blockchain, and low-code solutions. We build software development teams covering all skills and project roles, as well as supporting our clients through the entire project lifecycle. We can help you augment your IT staff to meet the growing demand of your business, or build a dedicated team for a complex project. Alternatively, we can step in to enhance an existing solution or provide software consulting services. You can always count on our expertise. To find out more, visit our website at fabrity.com or schedule a free 15-minute discovery call. Looking forward to hearing from you.